Welcome to Be Smart, a podcast about money, podcast about highbrow money, lowbrow money, and everything in between, and how not to be an idiot with your money, because there was a lot of that going around. So, last time I said we were going to talk about yard sales, and not like yard sales have really any bearing on your personal finance. I mean, you know, a good yard sale, you might make $300, $500. It doesn't really change the shape of the earth. But I think yard sales are interesting for economic reasons. They're a funny thing. So I was thinking about this the other day because in a couple of years, we're going to be moving. I'm going to be building a house, and we're going to have a yard sale because we will have been living in the same house for 8 years. And, you know, the funny thing is, when we moved into that house, it was a big house and we had lots of extra room. And over the course of 8 years, we've filled it up with crap. Just all kinds of crap. Now we have too much crap, you know. So when we move, we want to get rid of a bunch of crap. And when we moved 6 years ago from our last house, we got rid of a bunch of crap from that house. So this is just like the cycle of life, right? Like you buy a house, you move into it, you fill it up with crap, then you move into a bigger house, you get rid of some crap. This is what people do. There are some people who say that accumulating material possessions is a complete waste of time and bad because it just turns into crap and they're just possessions and it doesn't make you happy, and what's the point? In my opinion, I like to accumulate material possessions. Sometimes they get old. Sometimes I don't use them anymore. I don't care. And this is just what we do as consumers. We buy stuff and we use it and we stop using it and then we get rid of it. So it's what life is all about, accumulating crap. So we have all this crap in the house and we have to get rid of some of it in a yard sale. For example, now I'm a DJ. When I started DJing in 2008, I bought this setup. It was made by Pioneer. By the way, Pioneer makes all the standard DJ equipment. And I bought a mixer. It was a DJM 800 mixer. And I got 2 CD players, which were the CDJ 1000s, which at the time were the top of the line. Like, that's what you would see in the DJ booths and all the big clubs. And the thing with the CDJ 1000s is that they actually use CDs, okay? And I want to say around 2011, 2011, they came out with the CDJ 2000s, which you can still use CDs, but they have a USB port. So nowadays, what most DJs do is they just put all their music on a flash drive and they plug it into the CD player, and it's a lot easier than bringing around cases of CDs, because that's what I did for a number of years. When I traveled around for gigs, I had these big like CD books full of CDs, and you know, it's a nuisance. It's a lot easier with the flash drive. I still have the CDJ 1000s, the CD players that take the CDs. I still have these things, and they're sitting in a room and they're collecting dust. And I should have sold them a long time ago. Like back in 2014, I should have put them on eBay and gotten $300-400 for them. But, you know, I was late. I mean, you know, eBay it's annoying, and I didn't do it. And so I held on to them, and now they're fully depreciated. They're completely worthless, and they're just taking up space, right? So they're a pet rock. And my hope is, you know, if I take them out to the yard sale, if we have a yard sale in front of our house, I take them out to the yard sale and I put them out front and I put a price tag on them for $20 that somebody's going to take them just for fun, right? That's what I'm hoping. I don't even think that's going to happen because nobody even really has a CD burner anymore. Nobody, I mean, it's, you know, I don't know, but I'm hoping I can get rid of them for $20. Here's the interesting question, right? If I'm trying to get rid of this stuff, why am I selling it? Like, why am I selling it for an inconsequential amount of money? Why wouldn't I just give it away for free and just get rid of it? Why? So it calls into question the whole purpose of a yard sale, because you have this junk and you're selling it for tiny amounts of money, and you might get a couple $100 over the course of the day, but Like, if your goal is to get rid of this stuff, why don't you just throw it in the trash? Like, if you're going to sell it to somebody and they throw it in the trash, why don't you just cut out the middleman and throw it in the trash? So, I mean, but the hope is, my hope is that somebody will come to my yard sale and they'll see these CDJ 1000s and they'll be like, ooh, this might be fun. This might be a cool thing to learn how to DJ with. So they might actually use it, So there's conservation involved. Because like I said, you could just throw it in the trash and cut out the middleman. You have a yard sale, you make a couple $100. It's okay. It's not a big deal. You could put everything in the trash, but that would be too bad because there was someone out there who could use it, which brings up an alternative. I could take it to Goodwill. I could take all my stuff to Goodwill and just give it to them and say, here you go. And they put it in the store and somebody buys it. And that way we cut out the middleman. Like, that's possible. Maybe we have the yard sale and the stuff that's left over, we take it to Goodwill, right? That's a possibility. Anyway, super interesting economics and decision theory behind all this stuff. But I have lots of crap. I have some crap that I'm not getting rid of. Like, I have a very large CD collection. Okay, I'm not getting rid of my CDs. I have 700 CDs. In fact, I bought these shelves from IKEA that had like CD holders in them. So I have these monster bookshelves with CD holders, and I have 700 CDs. I don't even have a CD player anymore. Okay, I have tapes. I have tapes in these tape cases. They're in a closet. I don't have a tape player anymore. I do have a tape player actually that doesn't work. It's got a George Michael tape stuck in it. when it got stuck, I was too embarrassed to get it fixed because I didn't want to, show the guy that I was listening to George Michael. But I think CDs will come back someday. I really do. There's vinyl has had this big comeback. I think CDs will have a comeback. So CDs are, they're the best. It's perfect music. There's no compression. It's really the ideal sound. I think they'll come back someday. Problem with my yard sale is that I don't live on a main street. I live on kind of like a side street and it doesn't get a lot of traffic. So there is this issue of publicizing the yard sale. Now, in the old days, you would take out a classified ad in the newspaper and publicize the yard sale. I guess now we do it on Facebook. I have like 1,200 Facebook friends. I could do that. Anyway, so I have a bunch of clothes. I gotta clean out clothes. I have like 20 suits that I don't wear because I got too fat. And the idea of taking 20 suits down to the tailor just seems, I don't know, a bridge too far. Now, I want to circle back and talk about the last episode where we were talking about prepaying your mortgage. That was a controversial episode. I got a lot of feedback on that, and it was not positive. A lot of people disagreed with me, and I'm going to push back on the pushback. Okay, I feel strongly about this. Now, all the people that disagreed with me, and I don't want to make it sound like it was dozens of people. I mean, it was just a few people. But the one thing that they had in common is that they're all Wall Street people, right? Which makes sense because if you're on Wall Street, this is how you think, okay? This is how you think. You say, okay, I can borrow at 3% and invest at 8%. I'm just going to do that all day long. I'm going to borrow at 3% and invest at 8%. I'm just going to do that forever. Okay. Why don't you do that? Well, the reason is there's two sources of financial stress. Remember, I'm not the guy to talk to about making the most money. Okay. I'm not the guy to talk to about making the most money. I'm the guy to talk to about being happy, about being financially happy. So what you have here is a situation where you have a lot of debt. Okay, you take out a huge mortgage or some kind of debt, and then you invest the proceeds, and then you have risk. So you actually have debt and risk, which are the two sources of financial stress, and you've just massively ramped up your financial stress. And I'm not necessarily saying that it's going to go wrong. Maybe it doesn't go wrong. Maybe it works out. I'm just saying it's going to be stressful. And if you want to be happy, then prepay the mortgage. Take down your debt levels. Don't pay so much interest. Lower your risk, and you'll be happier. You will sleep soundly at night. Okay, so the finance guys, the Wall Street guys, like, yeah, if I can take out a mortgage at 3% and invest at 8%, why wouldn't I do that? Okay, and it's understandable because they're not really familiar with my philosophy on personal finance. And like I said, my philosophy is not to make the most money. The goal is not to make millions of dollars. The goal is to be happy and to have less stress. And if you pay off your mortgage in 10 years, you will have less stress. The goal is to completely eliminate your financial stress, right? I mean, think about this. You buy a house when you're 30 years old. You take out a 30-year fixed rate mortgage and you make the minimum payments for 30 years. You are still making payments on this mortgage when you are 60. Okay. Now, ideally, you'll be making a lot more money. There'll be inflation. These payments will be very small. They won't cause you much stress. Nonetheless, you're still making payments on a mortgage 30 years later. Okay. I don't want to do that. Because shit happens, right? You are betting on a 30-year period of shit not happening. Okay. You're betting that nothing bad will happen in 30 years. I've had some pretty big things happen to me. Okay, 9/11 happened in 2001. I had a mortgage, right? Like I moved across the country. I moved to New Jersey. I started this job. 2 months later, 9/11 happens. I thought I lost my job, and I just bought a place. I had made like one mortgage payment, right? That happened. Then 7 years later, Lehman went bankrupt. I actually did lose my job. That happened. You know, it would have been a lot easier to go through the stress of 9/11 and the bankruptcy if I didn't have a mortgage. Not like the mortgage was that big of a source of stress, but it was a bill that we had to pay every month. When Lehman went bankrupt, I did not have a job. Started a business. I did not have an income for a few months. I really didn't take money out of that business for like a year and a half. Like, I had a mortgage, you know? So get rid of the mortgage. One less thing to worry about. But this whole idea that you can borrow at a lower rate and invest at a higher rate, it's a bad idea because the rate you borrow at is fixed and the rate you invest at is uncertain. So what could happen is that you end up with both debt and losses. It's the worst of both worlds. It's the worst case scenario. But nobody worries about that because we haven't had a real bear market in a really long time. We did have a bear market during COVID, but it was like a fart in a hurricane. It's over very quickly. I am very cautious. I'm very risk averse. I do not buy stocks on margin. I do not use excessive amounts of leverage. I try to borrow as little as possible. And I don't worry about money. I don't have any stress. Now, I will acknowledge this. If you borrow big and invest big and it pays off, the returns are magnified and you hit a home run. If it does not pay off, you're in big trouble. What are the two sources of financial stress? Debt and risk. And this is both debt and risk combined. It is all the financial stress in the world combined into one. And I don't want to have anything to do with this. The goal is to be happy. If you want to make millions of dollars, you can listen to some other guy's podcasts. If you want to be happy, you can listen to my podcasts. And the most dollars does not always mean the most happy. So some people didn't like the mortgage prepayment episode. Wall Street guys tend to like leverage. They're not very financially conservative. I might be the one Wall Street guy that doesn't like lots of leverage. Neither should you. You know, I've done pretty well in my career, and with more leverage, I could have done better, for sure. And maybe it's because I lack optimism. Maybe I'm a pessimist deep down. I am not the most optimistic guy in the world. I am very cautious. And you should be cautious too. Because as the great Joaquin Andujar once said, You never know. See you next time on Be Smart, the Jared Dillian podcast.